Today we're going to talk about two-stroke pistons and why they fail, along with the symptoms and what to look for. Since I've gone through a lot of pistons over the life of my little motorcycle, this is your stock 50cc cylinder right here. Damn it. Just a second, I gotta pick this up. We can see the carbon buildup in the exhaust, and you can see the skirt. These are the skirts here. They're just massively built. Honda did an excellent job on them. But what we want to look for, and this is a 54 millimeter, 52 millimeter, 50 millimeter. No, excuse me. That's just a stock 50cc. And this is another 50 millimeter. Now, if you do a top end rebuild, the top end is the piston, the wrist pin, and the bearing that goes underneath, and a new head gasket. You want to take a look at the cylinders, and if you know what to look for, then you can understand how your bike is running, especially if you have a race bike. So I'm going to give you some pointers on what I've learned. Of course, I'm not an expert, but I'll just give you some pointers from what I've read in my books. Now, this is your stock piston right here. It has two rings. What I meant by stock is it's new. We look at the bottom. These pistons are slightly egg-shaped because they're going to get hot, and they will especially get hotter on the exhaust side rather than the opposite side. That's why they have the little arrows that point towards the exhaust. But as one gentleman pointed out, sometimes some companies, since these are all different companies, they point their arrows towards the back of the cylinder. Now, I didn't know that, and his tip was, which was a good tip, was all of these pistons have a little pin in your top ring, and they have a little pin right here in your bottom ring. And what he said is to, no matter where the arrow points, always put your pins in the back of your cylinder, back here, instead of the exhaust side. So that's a good point, because if they were reversed, then your pistons would snag on the exhaust ports, especially if you have these huge exhaust ports. This is an exhaust port that has a center rib in it, as it's called, and that helps from the ring expanding. And like right here, it helps the ring from expanding and getting caught right here and right here, or on these edges right here and right here on the exhaust port. Now we take the standard 50cc piston and we take a look at it. The rings are in good shape. There only should be carbon on the top of the piston here, down to the first ring. There should be no carbon below it, as in this piston here. If there were carbon below this, we would know as in this one, we would know that the rings were failing, that the explosion was getting past the top of the cylinder and going down the sides, which you shouldn't do. Now we turn the piston over and we look at the very bottom of the underside of the crown, and we notice that it's not discolored, there's no discoloration, therefore it's not getting too hot. You also want to look at your wrist pin and see if your wrist pin is turning blue and dark brown. That could be a sign of your engine is overheating. Now I believe on an air-cooled engine it should be about, in my estimation, I would say 280 degrees Fahrenheit would be your top. You don't want to go over that. With water cooled, I found it's 180 degrees. So that's my first segment on two-stroke piston problems. This is part 1 anyway. Now we'll go to part 2.